Evening, everyone. Welcome in. It is Iowa Hawkeyes Primetime Live. We are your hosts. I'm Josh Elmer. He is Chris Meglio. Josh Elmer of Hawkeyes Wire with USA Today Sports. Check him out. Check me out. Check the team out. HawkeyesWire.com or HawkeyesWire.usatoday.com. Chris Meglio, he is all over the map. My man just got done with finals, or at least one final today. How we feeling, my friend?
I'm feeling a little confident. I'm just glad to get that one out the way. As many know, as adults who've been to college, it's a lot of studying, a lot of projects we got to do. So, this show is still a priority for me. So I got to balance, the worlds that I wanna be living in. So to get that one out the way, now I'm one down. Should be done with everything by tomorrow, maybe Wednesday. So, the next show is gonna be even better for me, just because I won't have to worry about any homework or having any classes beforehand. So I'm excited to get that out the way.
Well, I know that you're fighting your way through finals to hang out with us, and we appreciate, Chris, you jumping on, and I certainly do, doing the show with me, even in the midst of a heavy school workload. But tell the folks where they can follow your Iowa athletics coverage coming up this summer and into next fall.
Yeah. So, so I work for a Daily Iowan, right? So student newspaper here at the University of Iowa. I will be covering football next year again. Should be going to more games than I did last year. So if you follow my coverage, you'll see me at most likely all the home games and some away as well. Hopefully I go to USC next year. We're going to knock on wood on that. Then I will be doing women's basketball, I believe, too. If not that, it'll be men's. So the primary sports, you can find me on there. And then you never know. I have an internship with the Des Moines Register. So you never know if they'll ask me to do some Hawkeye coverage, do some camp stuff. So, I think that'd be cool. But you can check me up on there, too. I'll be doing some news in the area. So, good opportunity for me to expand my profile, and good for me to put out some quality work to some people who see something in me. It chose me over a lot of people. I never take that for granted.
Well, great to have you in the house, my friend, again, in the midst of finals. And in the way of Iowa football notes, just right off the top, we do have several deals that are signed, sealed, delivered. I know that Caleb Johnson, he has inked his deal, as has Y.A. Black with the Pittsburgh Steelers. The 7th round selections, Luke Lachey with the Houston Texans, that 7th round deal has been inked, as has Connor Colby's 7th round draft deal to the San Francisco 49ers. And I haven't seen if the Seattle Seahawks with Mason Richmond have finalized their end of the bargain. I know they signed a couple of undrafted guys, but the actual draft picks, I don't know if that's totally done, but I would imagine in short order, if not already. The big news, I thought, though, was how about our boy, Nick Jackson? He had, if you've been following along with this, the New York Giants rookie minicamp invite. That was the first minicamp invite that he got. He actually, of course, got another rookie minicamp invite. And at the Tampa Bay Bucks minicamp, Chris, he must have impressed enough. He brought that Hawkeye DNA over, and he has officially signed a deal with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So congratulations off the top to Nick Jackson. That is big-time news for him.
Yes, sir. And it's a showing now hard work always pays off. It always does. On top of him being a great human, obviously great football player. For those who do know, second most tackles in FBS history. You don't get that by being an average player. You get that by being a great player. So, to him to have that rookie minicamp opportunity with the Giants, and now he goes to a team that's arguably going to be more successful. I don't think arguably. They will be more successful than the Giants. A team that's very offense heavy, needs some help on defense. So you never know if his veteran presence can come. He can come in and possibly get an opportunity. Maybe not right away, considering he was a tryout guy. But, if the opportunity presents itself and he ends up, getting somewhere slated in the game, I have no doubt in my mind that he's going to take advantage of that and really, make the most of his opportunity. And if it's not going to get it there, he's going to make a long career out of, whether it's there or someone else. So congrats to my boy, Nick Jackson. Quality human, too. I hope he sees this.
4 100-plus tackle seasons in college football. He actually played the most career games of anybody in college football. And, of course, had the second most tackles all time in college football with his, I think 555. Is that the number you've got in front of you? That's a crazy amount of career tackles in college football. It was a big time player for Iowa for a couple of seasons coming over from Virginia. So best of luck to him, as now he's got an opportunity to go to training camp, and hopefully from there he can wind up full-time locking down a spot with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which, as you kind of alluded to, Chris, is an interesting little franchise right now with what Baker Mayfield has done post Tom Brady. Baker Mayfield's somebody that is easy to root for with the way that it unfolded as the number 1 overall draft pick. And then Cleveland kind of says, we're going to go a different direction. We're bringing in Deshaun Watson, and he's bounced around for a little bit and revitalized his career and has stabilized things for Tampa Bay. They look like they're a winner in the NFC. A lot of people like them in the NFC South this coming season. So congrats to everybody that has inked those deals. And hopefully Nick Jackson is somebody that can stick around for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Wanted to lead off the top talking about this Iowa football passing game. You and I have sat here and discussed the wide receivers for Iowa. Feels like the Hawkeyes have upgraded that room, but with this being year 2 for Tim Lester, with the splash for the Hawkeyes out of the transfer portal, going and getting Mark Gronowski from South Dakota State, where he's a multiple-time, 2-time FCS national champion, the winningest quarterback in FCS history, though understandably that's a tied mark, but he does have the tie there for the most wins of any quarterback in FCS history. With that coming in, and what we think Iowa has done with its wide receiver room, is the emphasis greater than ever before for Iowa to show that they've fixed the passing game this season?
Well, I would hope so. If we said Mark Gronowski stats many times on this show, and if anyone who's in the audience right now has done their research, Mark Gronowski is a very solid passer. He's coming in with the reputation of being the best passer we've had in, so some years, not a super long time, but definitely in recent memory. So, and to have the core that we do, like the depth chart right now, Reese Vanderzee, Jacob Gill, and Seth Anderson are the top 3 on the depth chart I'm looking at. Dayton Howard's up there, Caden Weegan, Sam Phillips, who just transferred here from Chattanooga. Then you got KJ Parker, too, who's a young guy who's probably going to be a key piece in the year or two. You got 7 receivers you could throw in, and you can expect them to be productive. That's not even including Addison Ostrang and Zach Ortworth at the tight end. Then you bring in Mark Gronowski, who's thrown for over, I don't even know how many passing yards it is, but it's 2,000.
I got it scrolling for you at the bottom. It's over 10,000.
Yeah, over 10,000. Yeah. Oh, I'm seeing it right now. Yeah, 10,000. So, if you bring in this type of quarterback who can really throw the deep ball with this plethora of receivers, you have to think that our offense is going to, be definitely way improved from where it was last year, dramatically improved from where it was 2-3 years ago. And you have to expect that it's going to be the best passing game in some time. And, if that doesn't happen, then, there's some other things you got to look at. But right now, all we can do is be optimistic of what we have and what's to come.
One thing I think that Hawkeye fans will find out about me, and Chris, I don't know if you're this way, but I'm certainly, at least I try to be, wired this way, where I don't typically live in absolutes when it comes to sports. I understand that's not the first take model, and that's not this debate show and that debate show model. That's sort of maybe the opposite of how sports talk typically operates these days. So I don't generally exist in that it's one way or the other, right? The land of absolutes. Having said that, because Iowa went out and got Mark Gronowski, because I think it's clear the wide receivers have taken a step forward. They're older. They're wiser. Reese Vanderzee is somebody you're excited about. Dayton Howard is, now someone that's been in the program for a little while, as has Seth Anderson. You supplemented with Sam Phillips. Jacob Gill, somebody that produced for this football team a year ago. Caden Weegan brings a little bit different dimension to this Hawkeye offense. Because of all of those factors working together, along with the fact that it's year 2 for Tim Lester, count me in the camp that, though, again, I won't subscribe to the land of absolutes, I'll be concerned if by season's end for Iowa, we're looking at another Hawkeye offense that didn't really figure out the passing game. I'm expecting steps forward. Some might say, oh, great, here we go again with the Hawkeye passing attack. But I do think this is an important year for Tim Lester, for Kirk Ferentz, to show that this is not going to be a football program under his direction for however much longer that will go, with Kirk Ferentz as your head football coach, that they can figure out the throw game. They can be at times routinely explosive in the passing game. If not right here, right now, with Mark Gronowski, and of course, all of this assumes a clean bill of health for Gronowski over the course of this season. But if not right here, right now with Mark Gronowski, then I think it's fair to ask when.
And you're exactly right. If this doesn't work out, like I said, there's just some other things that we're going to have to, be serious about and really take a long look at, really a long observation of. And, like you were just saying, there's a lot of receivers that we have that could produce, but at the same time, they all bring a certain, element that each of them might not have. Like Reese Vanderzee is a taller receiver. He's 6'4". That's a bigger target. Kaden Weegen is just a speed guy. You give him the ball, he could probably take it 30 yards off a 2-yard catch. And I even mentioned the others. Jacob Gill is a good slot receiver. He knows how to get in space and really work his way. So, and combine that with Tim Lester coming back after a second year and not, going out and, doing the recruiting that he usually would. He stayed back and really wanted to develop the offense. So now you have to expect that we take a fair step forward. We lost an elite running back, but we got so many receivers. The passing game is not the backbone of the offense, but it's a big element that could really take us to the next level. I believe last year we averaged about 27 points per game. Correct me if I'm wrong. And the year before, I think it was like a low 14 to 16.
Like so right at 15.
Yeah, big step itself. Now we took this big step without necessarily the passing that we expected. Now we have the passing. And on top of that, we have good enough running backs that could at least combine the quality of running that Caleb Johnson had last year. I'm expecting about at least 30 to 35 points a game. That's my expectation. And like you said, you don't really want to put a ribbon on it and already call it a gift right now. You don't want to, be certain about it and don't want to necessarily, I don't want to say not buy in, but so many things could happen in the sport that the unexpected is expected, and a lot could happen to where, yes, our roster looks good right now, but one thing it cannot produce for some reason, injuries could happen. We have a lot of receivers that just derail for some reason. So we'll just see how it all plays out. But the spring, it's been looking pretty good. We talked about the spring practice the past two shows, and the passing looked really good. Obviously, they made an emphasis to show fans that we could throw the ball, whether it's Mark Gronowski, whether it's Jackson Stratton, whether it's Hank Brown. You got the guys that have the arm to throw the ball, and you got the guys that can catch the ball and get downfield. So a lot to look forward to, man. I'm hoping that this lives up to what I don't want to say expect that. Okay, I'm going to say what we expect it to be. I don't really know the other word I can use, but expect is the word.
Well, I think the expectation is that this is the season where you're legitimately not one-dimensional, right? That the throw game is something you can depend upon. That if it's 3rd down and 5, 3rd down and 7, you're confident that Mark Gronowski, as your signal caller, as your trigger man, if he's going to drop back and find one of those tight ends, Ostrenga, Ortworth, or others, or if it's this wide receiving core, that he can, on a consistent basis, go convert those types of downs for you. Or he's athletic enough, Chris, to where he's going to tuck and run and go extend drives, but that being a product of a throw game that you have to respect, right? Because probably a quarterback's not going to off script, tuck and run and go pick up a first down if you don't at least respect the pass catchers and the quarterback that's on the field trying to throw it to him, right? If you can just quarterback spy all day, then probably you're not going to be able to off script go, extended drive. So again, if not now for Iowa, then I think that's problematic, and you say win. So for me, if the question is the pressure on for Iowa football to fix the passing game in year 2 with Tim Lester, I say Yes. Can Iowa win a different way? Have the Hawkeyes shown that they're capable of winning with defense and special teams? Yes, that has been the calling card for some time. But fans want to see that they can win a different way, that with a quarterback, with the reputation of Gronowski, that he can at times this season, Chris, go out and win a football game at the quarterback position, right? Not with Caleb Johnson in the backfield. And obviously now in this case, it'll be Kamari Moulton, it'll be Jazian Patterson, or one of those other couple of running backs for the Hawkeyes. But that Gronowski can go win you a football game, and this passing attack can go win you a football game. And frankly, it's long overdue, and these fans deserve to see that happen.
Absolutely. And I don't want to take away from, the reputation we have on defense, but you have to think about all the pieces we lost on defense. Jay Higgins, Nick Jackson, Wyatt Black. We lost so many pieces on defense. Jamari Harris, now let me forget him, Sebastian Castro. So now, looking at it as the roster is right now, if we're going to win football games, this year's a little different because now we're going to have to win through offense. Our defense is going to hold up as we usually do, and we're still going to be a very well above average defense, but we're probably not going to be the top 5 defense, at least expectation wise, unless they go out and prove to us that they are a little different, that they could hold up. I wouldn't doubt that either because Iowa's defense has always been amazing. But this year is more looking like, okay, well, we're going to actually put points on the board, and there's an opportunity where maybe we could just outscore some teams and not have to stop them at the 1 yard or the 5 yard line like we're accustomed to doing. So that's kind of the expectation, at least my expectation of them. You could expect some defense, some offense, but it's exciting to see knowing that we're heading into a season feeling more confident about the offense than we felt in some time. And it's to know that the offense could possibly put up some high-scoring games and not necessarily win it in the trenches like we're used to doing brings a whole different element. Hawkeye fans will always be here, but I'm sure there's some more fans, some loyal fans that are actually going to be more excited because now instead of winning games 16-14 or 23-20, now we can maybe win a game 35-28. Maybe we could win a game of 41-35. It's really exciting, and Hawkeye fans should be optimistic unless they give us another reason to not be optimistic. But I believe Coach Ferentz, greatest coach in the game, 27 years and counting, he's going to figure out a way. Tim Lester will figure out a way. We're going to be all right.
What say you, Hawkeye fans? What's up, by the way? Great to have all of you with us right here on Iowa Hawkeyes Primetime Live. He, ladies and gentlemen, is Chris Meglio, and with the Daily Iowan, Des Moines Register, you name it, he's all over the place. I'm Josh Helmer with Hawkeyes Wire, HawkeyesWire.com, HawkeyesWire.usatoday.com. A couple of news and nuggets out there for Iowa football. We did hear from Kirk Ferentz, and he was asked at the end of spring a little bit more about Bryce George, the Ferris State offensive lineman, I guess, is the better way to say it now, that transferred over from Ferris State. And he shed a little light on how he might help Iowa. This probably won't surprise you, Chris, but Kirk Ferentz was quick to point to the fact that he's played a lot of football. That's one reason they like him. They weren't concerned about the jump from FCS to FBS football, from Ferris State to Iowa with Bryce George. But it didn't sound like he was just absolutely locking him in at left tackle. You and I sat here and wondered, okay, Trevor Lauk, Doetzler, is George the guy to step right in at left tackle? You've got another opening along your offensive line at starting right guard for you. That's the one other spot, left tackle, right guard, where you don't have a returning starter. Pieper is someone that obviously the staff really, really likes a lot, but it sounds like Bryce George, based on Kirk Ferentz's remarks at the end of spring, it's not a lock it up, throw away that he's a left tackle contender for Iowa. He could also factor in along the interior for the Hawkeyes, which if Lauk or Doetzler, if one of those two guys are just so good at left tackle that they kind of tell you, hey, I'm the starting left tackle, and all of a sudden George is in the mix there with Cade Pieper inside, and he wins that battle versus Pieper, then I don't think it's the worst thing that you went and found somebody from Ferris State and Bryce George that all of a sudden slides over to the interior to beef that up for you. But I thought that was interesting that Kirk Ferentz basically said, look, we've got a couple of jump balls along the offensive line, and I expect him to factor in to both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a typical Kirk Ferentz thing to do, because he, if you know Kirk Ferentz, you listen to him speak, he will never directly give away what he's thinking about a situation, whether he's already leans one way or another. He will always stay neutral to the public, to the media, and to the fans. So he might be thinking that, okay, well, Bryce George is the guy. He might be thinking he might have to work his way in. I'm sure that's what it's going to be. He doesn't want to give him the position right away. He wants him to earn his spot, no matter how productive he's been at Ferris State. And when you win not once but twice over there, that's a big telling of the type of player he is, considering all the snaps he played. He's a winning player. Yes, could he produce at Iowa right away? Absolutely. But he doesn't want to give it away right away, whether that's to the fans or to him. Let him earn his spot. That's what he's saying. And, I expect him to play. I don't see why, again, when you bring in a guy from the transfer portal, especially an experienced guy like him, you don't bring him in to have him sit on the bench and not produce, So I believe he will play, but typical Kirk Ferentz is take the neutral route.
Yeah, don't tip your hand in, end of April, early May on where everybody's going to be starting at. And I wouldn't blame Kirk Ferentz for doing that. He, I told you this last week, Chris, or the week before, that Kirk Ferentz said, hey, also don't expect a depth chart at the beginning of fall camp this year, unlike other years, because I'm not in the business of trying to upset parents in this go around. So I don't know if we'll get an updated depth chart until we get right toward the end of fall camp, or that opening week, right, versus Albany. That might be the next time we see an updated depth chart for Iowa. By the way, Bryce George, 41 games that he played in at Ferris State. He started 38. He was a All-American, first-team All-American last year at Ferris State, and he won 3 Division II national championships. While at Ferris State, he was also a 2-time All-GLIAC selection. So he was a couple of times an all-conference honoree. And as our man, what's up, T. Hink, by the way, good evening. Love to see you in the chat. He's right. Iowa added another offensive lineman, George Nahas, who is a former walk-on at Iowa State. He'll be a walk-on with Iowa. 6'4", 295-pound offensive lineman that, again, began his career with the Cyclones as a walk-on, was a 2-star kid coming out of high school, so not a highly regarded guy in that way, according to at least the 24/7 Sports high school recruiting rankings. And he comes into Iowa, Chris, as a walk-on offensive lineman for the Hawkeyes, but in-state kid from Dowling Catholic. He had offers from Army, Fordham, Southern Illinois, had some interest from the Kansas Jayhawks out of high school. And at any rate, you've added another name to the offensive line group. In what capacity? I'm not expecting this addition to be someone that steps in and is all of a sudden a rotation guy for you this season, but somebody that over time maybe can help the Hawkeyes out. And Iowa has a rich history with walk-ons. You know that. I know that. Hawkeye fans know that. It is a program with a rich history of walk-ons. So by no means am I writing George Nahas off as somebody that down the line can impact things for the Hawkeyes. I'm just not expecting it in 2025. But good news to see Iowa go add somebody from your rivals. Not going to hurt anybody's feelings either.
Yeah, I have a couple friends that chose Iowa State first and they transferred to Iowa. So I think seeing that it's a very common thing is a very telling sign about which is the better college in the state of Iowa. Besides that, just throwing some shade at my rivals. I actually still have a friend that's over there. Shout out my guy Tommy. But it's good to see another low guy walk on. Wasn't the highest rated recruit, but as you said, we have a rich history of getting walk-ons and developing them into something. A telling sign of what Kirk Ferentz has been able to do during his 27-year tenure with the program. So to get a guy like him, in-state kid, Dowling Catholic over there in West Des Moines, to go to Iowa State, and then we steal him from our rivals. I'm sure he's going to be something. I would love to see him pop out against the Cyclones over there. I will be at that game for sure. I'm excited for that one. So
Yeah,
hopefully he gets a chance
that's
to,
always a good one.
yeah, hopefully he gets a chance to play, man. And you definitely chose the right spot. If you're if you're not the highest rated recruit and you want to, everyone has aspirations of going pro. That's what you play college football for the most part. So if he wants to develop and really become something, there's not many programs that do it better than Iowa, where he could actually legitimately come and know he has a chance to play. So, for him, that's a great signing. I did not see that. Again, finals week, I've been really busy. I've not been tapped into the Hawkeye world that much. I've been trying, but studying and homework takes my time. But I'm glad we got him. 6'4", 295. It's a big dude, man. So I don't know what grade he's in. Do you know what grade he's in by chance?
He will be a redshirt sophomore, I believe. He spent a couple of seasons at Iowa State, but obviously redshirted one of those 2 years. So he's got 3 years of eligibility remaining. And so that's good. I mean, that gives him plenty of time to develop in the program. It's worth mentioning, too, that his father, Jim, is a legacy Hawk. So his dad played baseball at Florida and at Iowa before playing professionally in the Atlanta Braves organization. So from that standpoint, comes from an athletic background and a legacy Hawk. So all the legacy Hawkeyes, come on, Dad. You always welcome guys where mom and dad played for Iowa too. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's crazy. Now that you saying that, I can't believe he chose Iowa State first, but I guess they are closer. So I'm glad he could. I'm glad he could come by and do something with us. I'm sure he's going to be a good player. Maybe not next year, or technically this year. We'll say this year. Technically not this year, but years prior or years after that, I'm sure he'll be good.
Every once in a while, you just want to rebel for a little bit before you come back over to the good side and realize maybe mom and dad were right all along, or it's just a case of like that coaching staff coming out and then now looking for something a little bit different. I kid. The big news out there in college football is, and we'll see how quickly or if this gets finalized. You always hear with the college football playoff, the clock's ticking. Oh, the hourglass is starting to get empty. They have to have a decision soon. And even after that, that we're going to see 10, 15 more stories before we get any finalized news on the college football playoff. So I say all of this with that caveat that I don't know that this is immediate overnight, though. We're told they need to have the 2026 college football playoff finalized sometime soon. With that said, the big news, Chris, is that it sounds like there's momentum building for a 16-team college football playoff. Obviously, that would be an expansion of 4 teams from the current 12-team model we've got right now. And the second season coming up with the 12-team college football playoff. So we've done it once. What did you think? Let's start there. What did you think of how the initial 12-team playoff played out for college football? Because people have all sorts of opinions on the way that the conference champions got those initial buys and the seeding. How did you feel about the initial 12-team college football playoff? Would you make any tweaks to it?
Well, first of all, I loved it. I thought it was really good. There's so many teams that could play in the college football playoffs. So for there to only be 4, I thought was just not a high enough number. So the fact that I like the format of giving the top 4 the bye, adding 8 more, letting them play out, and then there's another round in there. I love how now there's 12. You add 16. I'm not against that either. I kind of love that idea too. I don't think it should go more than 16, but as I just said, there's a lot of great teams that could be playing in the postseason, maybe get their brand up, get the recognition up, or just be able to – there's so many teams, again, that could just extend their football season because they've been so good. And I think just adding another 4 teams would be very beneficial. I know there's mixed reviews. I saw some negative. I saw mainly positives. Again, I loved it. Like the case that you can make is last year, Alabama missing out. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe Alabama missed out.
They were on the outside looking in.
Yeah, and then there was another team in there too. I believe that I think it was SMU that made over Alabama. I think people had a problem with that. Was it SMU? I think it was.
Yeah, SMU.
SMU. Yeah, so adding 16, Alabama gets in there, then not as many people complain. And that's just and you look at, again, they could make the tweak. Think about it, because when it was a year ago, when it was just 4, the reason why they did 12 is because Florida State, an undefeated team, didn't make the playoff for star power Travis, not Hunter, playing his name. Jordan Travis, sorry. He ended up getting hurt and then didn't make the playoff. Now they do that. Now people are playing about Alabama. Okay, just expand it a little more. 16 will be great. And if it goes to 16, if Iowa gets to a 9-3, 10-2 record, what is that going to say about their chances to make a college football playoff? It would be nice to see the Hawkeyes get in the postseason, show what they can do. And you never know if that happens and you put us on the national stage. Maybe they're going to see how hard we play, how good our system is, how good our camaraderie is, give us a national spotlight. Maybe there's better recruits that are going to look at Iowa. Hey, look at them. They're a top 16 team. Let me look at them. Let me take them more serious. So I think there's a big domino effect that's not only going to benefit the Hawkeyes, but a lot of other teams too.
Mid-lag crisis. Just make one league. So need more information. Mid-lag crisis. I think I know which direction you're going there. You're saying just have the Big Ten and SEC one league, or you're saying the Power 4 conferences mix the Big 12, the ACC, and it's all one big, whatever the numbers would wind up. Notre Dame obviously would be a part of that, though they're an independent. You're not going to leave out Notre Dame from a television ratings standpoint. But what do you mean by just make it one league? Are you just talking Big Ten, SEC? Or are you talking all of the power conferences? What do you mean by that? For Iowa, if they do expand it to a 16-team playoff, part of the discussion, Chris, that is out there is that essentially that conference championship weekend, the Big Ten, you'd have your Big Ten championship game, and you'd have your SEC championship game, what you've traditionally known these games to be, right? The 1 seed, the 2 seed, the 2 best teams based on whatever tiebreakers you have set up, or if just by record, you got your easy, natural, convenient 1 and 2, and you don't have a bunch of tiebreakers to work through. Okay, that's your Big Ten championship game on that championship weekend. And then you have 3-play 6. You have 4-play 5 in the Big Ten standings. And those winners, obviously the 2 in the Big Ten championship game, they're already in, right? They've punched tickets to the college football playoff, and they're playing for, if you want to get into the debate on a champion gets a guaranteed double bye or gets that home field, whatever it would wind up being under a 16-team playoff, probably you're not getting a ton of bonuses for being the Big Ten champion outside of congratulations. You're the Big Ten champion and you've enhanced your seeding and you get to play theoretically lower ranked teams in your first couple of games. You're fighting for the easier path in a Big Ten championship if it's a 16-team model, because probably you're talking about first round games at home sites under that scenario. But okay, that's a long-winded way to say the Big Ten championship game is your 1 versus 2, and then 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5. You're now playing your way in to the college football playoff. And if you win that game on what has been the traditional conference championship weekend, then you're in the college football playoff. Do you like that for the Iowa Hawkeyes? Because look, Iowa has not been to a college football playoff. So theoretically, hypothetically, I could probably talk Hawkeye fans into it's better to have more access because you just haven't gotten in under the 4-team model. And at least one go around, we'll see what this next year brings with the 12-team format. You haven't gotten in yet with the 12-team format either. So do you like the access side of it potentially for Iowa?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's very hard to see Iowa make a 4-team college football playoff, especially with the LSUs, the Alabamas, and the teams that just dominate year in, year out. But now, like I said, with the 12, you just give more other teams opportunities who are consistently good, but aren't the top of the top to actually get a chance to make that national stage and give themselves a chance at the very minimum. And 16 would do that. Like T. Hink said, like the NFL, like do a conference like the NFL. There's just so many college football teams. I can't see that happening. I would love to see if there was an explanation by the committee how that would work. But I like it how it is right now. If they don't move to 16, I think 12 is a good number. It shouldn't go no more than 16, no less than 12. They should have never made it to 4. Let's just be grateful it is what it is now. And now, yes, you got teams like you said. Now it's in the case where if Iowa does make the Big Ten championship, and even though they lose, is that a good enough season for them to just get in because of that? Like somebody said, they didn't like ASU getting the number 4 seed. They got the number 4 seed because they won the Pac-12. Actually, shout out to Cam Scatterbo too, because for him to do what he did last year and
the Big 12,
Big 12. Sorry, I say Pac-12. Sorry, yeah, but
old habits die hard.
Yeah, but to take Arizona State to preseason worst in the Big 12 to the best, that's actually crazy. But like I said, the more the merrier. But there's only a set more we could do. So, like I said, I'm on board with this. It gives Iowa a great chance to make the national stage. I'm on board with that. Anything that gives Iowa a bigger chance to get in, I'm on board with that.
I'll share some more thoughts here in just a moment, but just look, if you're in the chat, you're hanging out with us on Iowa Hawkeyes Primetime Live, I just want to show you love and say hello. Thanks for being here, George. George, I'm not going to be able to be here every time, but I love Iowa. Has a theory about Iowa. First of all, Iowa is the only word I know that is written with all vowels. Well, wait a second. What about W?
Yeah, W is not a vowel, but it's close enough.
I'm sure there's something that I'm missing there, George, that you're about to fill us in. Iowa is where Dan Gable went to college, where he won every freaking wrestling match in the history of the universe, except the last one. Dan Gable, obviously a legend. And one more. Yes, George, I would have to agree. God bless Scatterbo. What a football player, right? Just the consummate football player, not the most athletic guy in the world in terms of just being an absolute, 40-yard dash burner, not, just the 6'6" wide receiver specimen, right? Obviously he's a running back, but you catch my drift. A football player in Scatterbo, and man, did he have an awesome season a year ago. It's IOU and sometimes Y and W. I don't know if that's right on vowels. Is it, George? I thought it was sometimes Y, but yeah. you might be. My knowledge of the alphabet, I might be misinformed. But at any rate, George, great to have you here. I say good news on the potential 16-team playoff for Iowa, just because, again, we haven't seen the Hawkeyes get into the 4 or 12-team format yet. Again, we'll see if with Mark Gronowski that this season, if they do find a way to ignite that passing attack, that maybe Iowa punches its ticket to the college football playoff for the first time. What I don't want to see, though, and it's showing that maybe it could be trending that way a little bit, is are we just going to keep adding and adding and adding to where you and I, Chris, if and when we're doing Iowa Hawkeyes Primetime Live 10 years from now, are we talking about now all of a sudden a 64-team college football playoff? I don't think that is in the spirit of college football. To me, you didn't really have a bunch of problems with the BCS championship. Typically, when it was just the computers plugging in the numbers and you played the season out, more times than not, you didn't wind up, I don't think, with this debate where you definitively had the wrong team on the outside looking in from the national championship game. And certainly the 4-team playoff, it's tough for me to find a bunch of years where I feel like teams were left out that either A, could have won the national championship, B, you would have favored to win the national championship, and C, were undeservingly left out, right? I mean, I think for the most part, the 4-team playoff got it right. So, okay, we expanded. We got to the 12-team model to create more access for, say, your group of 5 schools, right? Now there's no debate about the Boise States of the world. They've got entrance into the college football playoff. That solves one problem. You've got all of the main power conference champions punching their tickets into this college football playoff. That was another problem at times that maybe wasn't totally resolved in some instances. So to me, if you had just expanded to 8 teams, I think that would have been enough on the typical year in, year out equation for college football in terms of teams that can really go win a national championship. But it's at 12 now. It sounds like there's momentum building for 16. And as it pertains to Iowa, I do think that's good news. It at least continues to open the possibilities, the likelihood that we could be talking about the Hawkeyes getting into the college football playoff. And if you're an Iowa fan, or if you're a fan of a team, Chris, that isn't your traditional blue blood in college football, you know, to some degree, and maybe this is a poor comparison, and if this is bad, then, you know, by all means, just Dikembe Mutombo thing, you know, Dikembe Mutombo this thing right out of bounds here. But, you know, for instance, like a Boise State when they upset Oklahoma many moons ago, right? And to a lesser degree, a much lesser degree, because you're talking about Iowa from a power conference like the Big Ten, does this create parity in college football? Does it make it more likely that you can see in Iowa develop into a college football powerhouse by getting routine access into the college football playoff? Because right now, with the 4-team playoff you haven't gotten in, one go around with a 12-team playoff you didn't get in. If a 6-team format gets Iowa in on a regular basis, does that open the door to Iowa becoming more of a national player? That question is one that you just don't really know the answer to until it plays out in time.
Yeah. Where do I start? I believe that, again, it just gives Iowa a bigger chance to get in, so as well as some other schools. You know, we're not the blue blood, as you mentioned. First of all, actually, I want to get into this. I love that Dikembe Mutombo phrase. That was kind of, if I was a basketball fan, that was hilarious with the finger wagging out of bounds. Yeah, but yeah, you know, like I said, it just gives Iowa a better chance to get in the college football playoff, so we could do on a national stage. Now 264 is insane. I think anything more than 16 would be crazy. Think about how physical these football games are. And it can't be like the NBA playoffs now where there's so many teams, and not like March Madness where there's 64, 68, really. Yeah, you know.
And they're talking about expansion, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that is crazy. I saw 96. Was it? Am I saying that right? I think it was 96.
You hear all sorts of proposals like they're going to add 8 more teams and get it to 76, or you hear they're going to add, you know, all the way up to the number that you mentioned, just add a whole other round to the tournament. So you hear all sorts of things with the NCAA men's and women's basketball tournaments. And probably at some point, that expansion is going to happen in NCAA basketball. And you know what? With at least the college basketball side, I can make a logical argument for you, and I know others have made it, that, look, there's 300 some odd Division I college basketball teams. So from a percentage standpoint, maybe there should be more teams getting into the NCAA tournament. Again, I feel like it's just fine at 68, but I will at least entertain the argument.
I'm with you on that. Keep it at 68. It does not need to be anything more. That's enough opportunity for all the teams that deservingly so should get in. You don't see too many robberies in March Madness, and that's for a reason. But I want to take a little quick pivot because you always ask me to introduce myself and talk about myself, but T. Hink is asking about you, man. He's asking if you're seen your stuff in Oklahoma. So just talk about yourself real quick, since I always do mine.
Yeah, T. Hink, I graduated from the University of Oklahoma. I live and work in Oklahoma City, and I co-host a radio show from 9 to noon in the OKC market. But for one reason or another, family ties to the state of Iowa, and I grew up in Wichita, Kansas. So to me, if you grow up in Wichita, Kansas, you feel like you're from the Midwest, right? And I had an affinity for the Midwest, and I had a draw to cover Iowa when the opportunity presented itself. And so, long story short, though, it's unconventional. And though, yes, I'm splitting time between the University of Oklahoma and Iowa, I'm going on now 4 years of covering the Iowa Hawkeyes, in addition to on a daily basis covering the University of Oklahoma too. So it's my professional responsibilities are a little bit wild, T Hink, but at any rate, so yes, graduated from OU, cover OU in addition to Iowa. So anyways, yes, that's my background there.
Yeah, don't get confused. Just because he's in Oklahoma, he knows his stuff about Iowa. He doesn't have to be too close to know his stuff. So trust me, he's got it locked down from over there in Oklahoma City. How about the Thunder too? Well, we can talk about that later. That could be one thing out the door. But yeah, man, it's so cool to have you here, though, man. I'm glad I could do this with you, even though you're all the way some odd miles away.
Yeah, no, and I'm having a bunch of fun. I am an Iowa fan, T Hink, absolutely, and really by virtue of doing this job and just covering the program, I have this belief, and others will disagree with this. I think you can be professional in professional settings, and also enjoy and root for a team as well. So I have become a Hawkeye fan over the last 4 some odd years covering this team and following it. I just believe that when you cover a team, you kind of naturally do that and become a fan that way. So I think as long as in professional settings, you can be professional and separate the fandom from being a reporter and being a critic and, breaking down the team, then to me, that's okay to do that. I think media's kind of transitioned that way to where you don't have to be that buttoned up journalist in every single instance. So I know others will disagree with that thought out there, but if you ask me point blank, are you an Iowa fan? I would say yes, absolutely. I'm a Hawkeye fan. No question. It's number one. I mean, look, it's good for us, right? It's good for this show. It's good for business, and it's fun to cover a winner. So I'm always rooting for the Hawkeyes. It's okay to like Iowa and Oklahoma as long as Iowa's your number one team. George put me on the spot right there.
Yeah, he's funny, man. But yeah, I'm gonna add to that when you said that when you cover a team you naturally like them. I will be very honest to say that before I got to Iowa, I was not one to pay attention to them. I actually did not know exactly what college I wanted to go to coming out. So, life just took me to Iowa, and it took me to cover sports here. And now I'm a diehard Iowa fan. I mean, I live and die by Iowa like I live and die by my Bears and Bulls. So, you could put me in that tier too. Who 3 years ago, I didn't know anything about Iowa. I will be very honest, and some of the people might look at me weird now, but I actually did not know who Luka Garza was before I came to Iowa.
Don't admit that. That'll get you in trouble.
I'm saying it, man. And I know a lot about him now, and I did my research. I knew about the Murray twins. I was in Cedar Rapids when the Murray twins were going off, so they're from Cedar Rapids. But yeah, it was just long journey to get to from being a general NBA fan alone to becoming a wide sports fan, including Iowa now. So it's better on this side. And I want
to know, are you with the Daily Iowan?
I am. If you search on my name, Chris Megla, you will see some of my work. I've done a couple of Caitlin Clark articles recently. So
nice.
Yeah, I done a 2,500 word Caitlin Clark article, and I can't even tell you the amount of research I put into that article. I've probably done more studying on that article than I've ever done in school. So, it's I put a lot of work into my craft and journalism. School is there too, but at the end of the day,
professor see this.
Yeah, sports will be always number one for me. I will say this. I want to shout out this one too. While we're on the topic of talking about randomish things, I went to Philadelphia to cover the Wrestling National Championships back in March. That was the best sport experience I ever had in my life. It's like to look up and see Allen Iverson, Charles Barkley, Julius Erving, Wilt Chamberlain, their jerseys. And I was very close to the stage when Stephen Buchanan won his thing, and I was at the post-game press conference too. So if you've seen some viral quotes of Stephen Buchanan talking about, how emotional it was, victory it was, I probably asked a question. I know there's at least 2 questions I asked and went viral for his answer.
I got to agree with our man, George. Mark Rogers, the voice of college football, does a great job of objectively dissecting every team in the country. It can be done. And Mark Rogers, by the way, a great evaluator of talent, as well as he's building this voice of college football up. And obviously, we appreciate you, Mark, for giving us the opportunity to do Iowa Hawkeyes Primetime Live. Okay, we're getting skinny on time on this Monday evening. And I'm Josh Elmer with Hawkeyes Wire of USA Today Sports. Check out my work and the team's work, HawkeyesWire.com. And Chris Meglio with the Daily Iowan and soon the Des Moines Register and a bunch of other hats in addition to Iowa at the Voice of College Football right here with us, where you can find us every Monday night at 6 o'clock right here live with you, where we're hanging out with you, the Hawkeye fans, and George, who's kind of, a Gator fan and maybe a fan of a number of teams out there. Whoever is hanging out with us, we love that you guys are a part of the show and hope you'll be a part of it with us every Monday night. So just kind of in closing on the 16-team playoff possibility of expansion there, I say good news for Iowa. I think more access is great for a program like Iowa as you look to take what has been a perennial winner. You know, you see those statistics out there, consecutive winning seasons, and Iowa is part of a select group that has been a consistent winner over, well, really the entirety of Kirk Ferentz's tenure dating back to 1999, with a couple of not great losing seasons mixed in just on a rare occasion. But over the last decade plus, you've been a winning team every single season, and there's not a lot of college football fans that can make that claim. Iowa has been a part of that group, but taking that next step, turning the corner and becoming a team that we, Chris, feel like can win the Big Ten championship on a regular basis, that hasn't necessarily been the case for Iowa. There's been the 2015s, right? There's obviously early in the Ferentz tenure where you had the co-championship. So there's been Big Ten champions, the Big Ten champion once under Kirk Ferentz, and a couple of times where you won the Big Ten West and played for the Big Ten championship. But to turn that corner and be a perennial Big Ten either favorite or contender in that national landscape, maybe an expansion to the college football playoff, maybe that can help the Hawkeyes in that regard. I at least like to exist in the world where, though the Blue Bloods will, of course, draw TV ratings, and that's great news for the ESPNs and Foxes and so on and so forth, the world, for college football, I think having more teams in the mix is not a bad thing for college athletics. If a program like Iowa or others that you don't see every single year playing for or winning a national championship or winning a Big Ten championship, that's good. That's healthy for college athletics. Maybe an expansion can help Iowa to enter that group on a regular basis. I hope it does.
You would have to think that. How I think about it is, I don't know how 2 years ago we made it to the Big Ten championship with no offense to with that offense. Our defense was elite. You know, that's for anyone that knows Iowa football, that's that Deacon Hill, that offense. No offense to him. That team offensive wise was not a Big Ten championship team. Defense, more absolutely. But now we got a solid offense. We have a very, very solid offense that can put points on the board. Mind you, okay, I'll take it back to that championship. Michigan did blow us out, as expected. But now we have an offense to where if we're in that situation again, we're going to put points on the board, regardless of the defense in front of us. Now our Big Ten championship hopes have just gotten bigger, I believe. And like I said, the defense is something to see. I believe guys like Max Llewellyn, Xavier Nwampa, those guys that have been talked about highly throughout the spring training are going to step up too. You know, shout out my guy TJ Hall too. I can't forget him as well. He's been solid. So yeah, again, I don't want to talk too long. I know we got some other stuff to get into, but I expect Iowa to be in the Big Ten championship, and I expect us to have a good shot at being one of those 12 teams come the end of 2025.
I like it. I love the optimism. And, we opened this show talking about, if not now, when for Iowa with its passing attack. And, not to go all the way back into that spiel, Chris, but I don't totally like existing in the world of absolutes, but I do think there's some pressure on Iowa with Gronowski, that addition, for them to prove that they can throw the football this season, and that is a dimension under Tim Lester that they can enhance and be, serviceable in that regard, right? Just middle of the road throwing the football, though. You'd probably like to be in that upper third with somebody like Gronowski that's played as much football as he has. In the before we get out the door, we do have some basketball news to share with you. Actually, a couple of tidbits. One on the men's side, one on the women's side. Class of 2026 commit no longer out of Iowa United Prep. In-state kid Navon Shabazz has decommitted from the Hawkeyes without, that direct information from Navon or his family. I don't want to speculate too much. There's been some reporting out there on sort of why this decommitment came to be. And I think I can just sort of speak in generalities here, Chris, that look, when you get in this instance, Fran McCaffrey, who offered Navon Shabazz and got the, commitment, and then you get a, firing, and now all of a sudden you got a first-year head coach at Ben McCollum, and he's restructuring his staff and bringing in all sorts of different players. It's basically an overhaul outside of Cooper Koch, right? I mean, that's the one guy that's back, save, for walk-ons. It's a completely different Hawkeye roster with now a different vision for what things are going to look like. So just wish him well. I know that Fran McCaffrey from Penn offered him. So who knows? Maybe he's going to wind up going to Penn and just reconnecting with Fran McCaffrey. There was kind of, if you want to call it reporting out there, there was sort of an assertion that maybe the communication wasn't great between the Iowa coaching staff to Shabazz, whatever that was, right? If they weren't linked up, I don't think it's shocking, because guess what? Again, you had one coaching staff and now you got a new coaching staff. So wish him well. Hope he finds a good landing spot moving forward.
Yeah. I would assume that Fran offering him is a part of that. It's one thing when you commit here thinking you're going to have one coach and another comes in. It's always an adjustment no matter how good the coach coming in is, or how good the coach how much the coach that's leaving is. But there could be a lot of reasons. I'm sure it's nothing bad against Iowa. Probably just wants another opportunity somewhere else. Maybe he doesn't want to connect with Fran that much. Or as the general landscape is today, maybe there's just some other money on the table that he heard about and he wants to go grab the money. You just never know. But we wish him the best of luck. I'm still confident in what we have going forward. And that's it. Pretty much, yeah. I don't want to talk too much. I know we got some other stuff again, but yeah.
No. You just rip. You just riff and share your thoughts, and you roll as long as you feel you need or want to roll. We're good, baby. We just got a couple more minutes.
Yeah. All right, well then I'll add this then. I was looking forward to seeing him here. Again, wishing the best of luck, but we have enough talent to combat that loss. Yeah, thank God for, Ben McCollum bringing everyone from Drake over, or most of them, at least over half the roster. Cooper Koch coming back. We do have some great pieces, and I do believe that now once Ben McCollum is set here, he gets 1 year under his belt, and people see the transition that Iowa makes. Not only that, but with the fan base too. I know there was a couple viral pictures of some visiting players last year that came, and the crowd was empty, and the crowd, that's how the comment section goes with that one. But now I believe next year, when there's a lot of fans in the building and these players come and visit, see the new environment that's here, see a more athletic team, a more consistent offensive team, and not only that, but a much more improved defensive team, I believe that we're bound to get some better recruits in the future. So shout out him. If he wants to come back, Iowa fans, I'm sure, will accept him with open arms. I don't think that's going to happen, but, shout out him going forward. I hope he goes with Fran, though, because Fran is still one of the better coaches in all of college basketball, regardless of what happened this offseason.
Yeah, and I'm blanking. Maybe the comments can remind me, just since we're doing this live and I don't have notes on Penn basketball. I know he got a big-time Fran did a big-time commitment as soon as he started up over there at Penn. So it'd be fun to see Fran turn Penn into a winner, and obviously he's going back home. So that's kind of that's a neat little college basketball story. Again, I don't know exactly. TJ Powers. Okay. Thanks, T-Hink. I don't know the exact particulars of why this decommitment happened, but again, I think in generalities, you can say that one vision for Navon's future probably wasn't the same vision with now a new coaching staff. And I would just say that I trust what Ben McCollum's doing. I think he's done a tremendous job so far. Wish Navon nothing but the best. On the women's basketball side, let's hope, and if this news has dropped while we're doing the show, then I have missed it. If there's any commitments to announce, that would be great. But Iowa women's basketball is hosting Emely Rodriguez, UCF transfer, as we speak today. This has been in the works for, well, a little bit more than a week that it's been reported. We talked about this, I think, on last week's show with Emely Rodriguez. Iowa and Coach Jan Jensen have made it pretty clear, Chris, that, look, they'd like to add another guard/forward into the equation, someone that can shoot, somebody that can attack, can be a three-level scorer. And Emely Rodriguez, just a freshman, a season ago, so just the one season of eligibility that she's played so far was a double-figure scorer for UCF. She looks like she could be that player for the Hawkeyes. You've already added Chit Chat, right? Who could very well step in and be the starting point guard for this Hawkeye team this coming season. So let's hope there's good news with Emely Rodriguez and they add another player out of the transfer portal, somebody that Jan Jensen and this staff would have conceivably 3 years to work with, develop, and add into this core for Iowa women's basketball. Could be a big-time get. I love what her tape looks like. I know that tape, typically, if I'm looking at your highlight tape, Chris, there's not a lot of bad plays on the highlight tape, so I fully understand that you're looking at the good stuff and not the in-between plays, I guess, if you will. But she looks to me like she could really help them a lot. So hopefully in, the coming little bit here, we get good news that Iowa's added another piece to its equation.
Yeah, for her to be a guard at 6 foot, it beats some much needed size for this team, especially her being a freshman. If she were to commit here, that's 3 more years of eligibility, bearing another transfer. And like you said, 12 points a game, nearly 5.5 rebounds. I'm looking at 1.4 steals, half a block a game. She's putting up some good numbers over there, and I believe in their Big 12. So for them, is it UFC? I don't know why I don't know my stuff today. Big 12, we're gonna call it. But for her to come to Big 10, right, I think it would be very. Okay, I'm glad I'm right. It'd be very beneficial for her to come. I'm assuming with their size, she'd be an immediate impact player. Place where, like we said last show, not many women's basketball teams are packing out arenas like the Hawkeyes are. But again, this is another one that I missed because I've been so busy with finals. Man, I can't wait to be done with school. Just be involved in sports all the time. But it's good to see that Iowa's still out there recruiting. I expect us to get 2 more players. I know we still got to replace Olsen off Holter and O'Grady. But this will be a big one that, again, instant contributor right away, whether that's off the bench or as a starter. But you could expect that if she comes here, she's going to be an immediate player we throw out, and you're going to see minutes out of her, and she's going to be a good player, I believe, a good two-way player for us,
11.9 points a season ago, 5.3 boards, 1.4 assists and steals, basically a 41% shooter from the field, 33.3% from three-point range, and more than solid, 75% from the free throw line. Missed a couple of games with injury, but still had 16 double-figure scoring games, including a career-high 21 against Iowa State, which that's always good. If you can do that against the Cyclones, come on down, baby. We'll certainly welcome that in Iowa City. So she got a cool story, too, originally from the Dominican Republic and basically bet on herself. Came stateside and said, I want to chase my basketball dream. Went over to the Miami metro area where eventually she was the Miami Herald, Miami-Dade County Girls Basketball Player of the Year in March of 23, where obviously she was awesome, and then went on, turned down some opportunities from both South Carolina and UConn. I think that if you're looking at this, you follow the offers train, right? When you're evaluating transfer portal player, high school recruit, whatever it may be, right? Somebody joining the program, which programs were in the mix, who's been offering. And out of high school, again, she chose UCF over South Carolina and Connecticut. Now, maybe it was, hey, we see you as, a depth piece. We see as that second wave piece, whereas at UCF, it's, hey, you're going to come in and be a big time contributor for us, which obviously she was in year one. So that could have impacted that decision. But for me, I'm looking at that and I'm saying, if I'm Iowa, okay, if she was good enough for South Carolina and Connecticut Blue Bloods that, oh, by the way, just played for the national championship, then come on down if you can add that to the program.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, that's some glaring talent right there. If you're saying those two that want her, yeah, not much needs to be said for that. Yeah, she's definitely an impact player. And for her to go to UFC, I think it's a telling sign of saying that she just wants an opportunity to play. You know, she believes she has a talent. She's going to get recognized no matter what. She just wants to showcase that. You know, when you go to a South Carolina or UConn, it's probably one of those cases where unless you're like a rare talent like a Paige Buchers, Sarah Strong this year at UConn, you know, it's probably going to be develop, wait your turn. When your opportunity comes, you play. But she played immediately. She showcased her talent. Now she wants to take her talent somewhere else. You know, Hawkeyes is a great spot. She's going to be a player here that's going to be an impactful player immediately. And she plays in front of the crowd. You know, you get the recognition here too. So great addition. Not many places better than Iowa, I'll tell you that.
T-Hink, it was not a good weekend on the baseball diamond for Iowa. Unfortunately, in Des Moines versus a very, very good Oregon State team. Lost the first two and did rally late. And then, unfortunately, college baseball, I'm guilty of this. I'm sure many are guilty of this, forgetting that indeed these are student athletes at times. And so, unfortunately, that stinking curfew rule came into play. And so they actually tied in the final game of the series, Iowa and Oregon State. So it sets up a chance where 2 wins versus Oregon this weekend. And probably, I mean, you're the Big Ten champs under that scenario. You would think, I mean, you think winning the series gets you into the clubhouse as the Big Ten champion. But, you know, at this point, based on what the resume looks like from an RPI standpoint for the Hawkeyes, I would hope that if you're the Big Ten regular season champion, that's enough for the committee to say, okay, we don't need to see you go win and get the automatic bid in the Big Ten baseball tournament, obviously the following week. But unfortunately, because of some, midweek losses and the slate that Iowa got was not the juiciest, most challenging Big Ten slate across the board. So the RPI, I think, is 67 still coming out of, or at least it was when I looked at it, I think first thing this morning for Iowa. 67 in the RPI is that's not an at-large position typically, but you win this series versus Oregon. Hopefully that's enough for the committee to reward you for being the Big Ten regular season champion. I personally feel that it should be. Again, and I talked about this on last week's show. It's not so easy at times for North schools to schedule up. The SEC programs, the ACC programs, especially the SEC, look, that league, everybody's going to get a good RPI because everybody in the league's good and they're all playing each other. That's not necessarily the case in the Big Ten. So, but hey, the Hawkeyes got to go handle their business versus Oregon coming up this weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I guess, for that series. That's going to be massive for the Hawkeyes. One thing out the door, we've overstayed our welcome by a solid almost 10 minutes now. This show's designed to be an hour show. And, well, we just had so much fun hanging out with you again on a Monday night that we rolled a little bit beyond it. One thing out the door, what you got?
Yeah. First thing, we usually go over time because we have such a good time here. So appreciate all the fans that stay with the whole way. I actually have 2. There was one that I want to get into before the show. Then something else happened as the show went on. The first thing is Caitlin Clark, ESPN posted her top 25 players in the WNBA. And to see Caitlin Clark number 4, not mad about it at all. I'm actually very pleased because she is one of the best players in the W. She proved that immediately the second she stepped in. That's what a generational player does. And she's only behind, give me a sec, Asia Wilson. I can't see it, but I just know Asia Wilson, Napisha Collier, and Brianna Stewart.
Yep.
Those are the only players she's behind. She's in front of everybody else. So for her to be in front of those names, like Sabrina Ionescu, Alyssa Thomas, John Cole Jones, come on, man. She's top tier. She's one of the best in the game right now. And regardless of those 3 players ahead of her, there's no doubt that she is the best show in all of women's basketball around the world. If you name one women's basketball player that's going to draw a crowd, if you need it, what did Max Kellerman say? Martians have the death beam pointed at the earth. You better hit it. You're going to ask Caitlin Clark to hit the shot. Whether it's 36 feet, 50 feet, she'll probably hit it. Second thing is, as the show was going on, I told you I was going to pay attention to the NBA draft lottery. I don't know if you've seen this. I don't know how big of a fan you are with the NBA, but the Mavericks actually got the first pick in the draft. I find that very, very ironic considering what happened last year. Spurs got the second one, Philly got third, and Charlotte got fourth. After that, Bulls got 12, and I haven't been able to see who else, where did everyone else fare up. But I find it very ironic that the three teams that had the best odds, they're all small markets. All of them are not the best show. Only one of them was in the top four. The other three teams are actually teams that couldn't make the playoffs and actually have an established crowd. All big markets, you could say, too. So I find it very ironic that Philly was in the top three. Very ironic that the Mavs were in the play-in tournament and they got the first seed. Oh, what a shocker. Luka Lee's fan base is at the worst it's ever been. All of a sudden, oh, here you go, number one pick. Here's an elite player you guys can roll with the pair of Kyrie and AD. Good job by Adam Silver to recognize the issue. And the Spurs getting the second pick is kind of crazy too. You got a generational player in Wemby, then you get Stephon Castle last year, the fourth pick, and then now all of a sudden you just want to. I understand the agenda. You want to try to pair Wemby up with as many talented players as you can to make sure that he becomes a dynasty and the Hall of Famer that he's supposed to be. So, there's a clear agenda. The NBA switched their rules on their draft rules or whatever in 2019. Ever since then, there's been a little bit of controversy every year. So, I would love to see the balls being spun in front of everybody again instead of just coming out with envelopes, because now it looks like they just handpicked these things.
Basically, you're calling shenanigans on the NBA draft lottery.
Oh, 100%. No doubt in my mind that's shenanigans. There's no way the Mavs are the playing team and they somehow end up with number one pick. No, I knew this too. Like I said, I've been watching NBA. I'm 22 years old, going on 23. I've been watching NBA very heavily since 10 years old. I've been watching it over half my life, 13, 14 years. So now I've seen this stuff. This is Cooper. The Mavs getting the number one pick in this draft is an equivalent to a LeBron, the Cleveland getting the number one pick, Chicago getting number one in 2008 with D Rose. There's another situation. Like what even Wemby with the Spurs. I said it ahead of time. I said I bet you the Spurs will get the number one pick, him being the French star, Greg Popovich there. I guarantee you they did. I couldn't see Cooper Flag going to any of the Jazz, Utah Jazz, the Charlotte Hornets, and there's another poverty team in there. I couldn't see it happening. The Washington Wizards. I couldn't see it happening. I had to be a bigger market I was going to get them. Of course, again, Luka's situation, Mavs get number one pick. Just ironic. There's no way that's by coincidence.
It makes you wonder, ladies and gentlemen. And on that note, man, shout out Pop. What a legend in the sport. And obviously that was not fun to just see Father Time, unfortunately, remain undefeated. You could tell I thought it was awesome that Tim Duncan and Manu Ginobili were there to support him, as obviously he has retired, and they've handed the torch, the reins over down in San Antonio. Thunder up, baby, by the way, in case you were curious. Yeah, series this side. Yeah. Hawkeye Thomas on our way out the door. I'll be at the baseball games this weekend. Thomas, I hope you enjoy it. Get us some Hawkeye victories, could you? We're trying to get a Big Ten championship, and we want to get that Heller ball into the postseason. So let's just go ahead and get the broomsticks out while we're at it. Might as well get greedy, right? Hey, Chris, look, man, good luck on the rest of your finals. Thanks for, still finding time for the show as you're getting ready to do your finals. And for everybody out there, all of you in the chat and watching along and hanging out with us on a Monday night, we appreciate you guys. We're going to do this every Monday night. It's Iowa Hawkeyes Primetime Live. He is Chris Meglio. Check out his work. Follow him, by the way, at Chris_Meglio on X, formerly known as Twitter. I'm at Josh on Ref. Feel free to give a shout out on the socials over there, or at Hawkeyes Wire. You can tweet the website. I write for HawkeyesWire.com. Would love you to support our work, the team's work over there. Until next time, everybody have a wonderful rest of the week, and go Hawks. Until next time, see everybody.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. Wish me luck on my finals.
Good luck, my man. See you guys.